I'd had it with DC. I'd been living here for about 17 years, and I was really tired of all the stress and workaholism and expense. And then my mother died the year I turned 40, and we'd been estranged since I'd come out as a lesbian. So I fell into what's called complicated bereavement with some depression, and I was a mess. My partner, I had been with Marie for 3 years then, and one day I say, Marie, I just can't live here anymore. I feel like I can't breathe. I need to be in a smaller place that's more peaceful. And I've loved Asheville, North Carolina every time we visited. It's beautiful, it's in the mountains. People call it the San Francisco of the South. Well, no. And there are lots of lesbians there. I think I want to move there, and we can move there, and I want to study energy healing and write and heal. Well, that's great, Elizabeth. I love Asheville, and North Carolina's my home state, but I have a great job here, and I can't just pick up and move to Asheville. Well, maybe you can find a job down there or something, but I just feel like I have to go. My soul is calling me to those mountains. So I did something really radical. I closed my private practice I'd had as a psychotherapist for over 12 years, and I picked up and moved to Asheville, not knowing a soul. I hoped Marie would follow me. It was the summer of 2004, and it was a disastrous move. I'd hired this cheap moving company, and they didn't show up with my furniture for 21 days. 21 days of sleeping on an air mattress with my adorable dachshund, Tama, my duffel bag with some clothes and a few books. But being an extrovert, I decide this is the perfect time to surrender and just explore all the interesting spiritual and social groups that Asheville has to offer. So off I go to the mindfulness meditation group. It's too quiet there to make any friends. So I decide I'll take a theater class. That'll be fun. And this great actress teaches the class. She's just moved to Asheville from Manhattan. She's really talented. I introduce myself to her after the class. She pulls me aside and says, "Look, hon, I don't want to burst your bubble, but this town is not what it's cracked up to be. This is just a small town in the Bible Belt. And if I were you, I'd run like hell back to D.C. What had I done? Well, then I decide to go to a good old-fashioned lesbian potluck. The group is called Gorge Us. Here's fried chicken and brownies and beer. This is the rural South, y'all. What have I done with my life? So the next weekend, I go to a workshop called Awakening Your Goddess Within. And the spiritual leader is a woman named Glenda Moondragon. Moondragon captivates me with her long blonde hair, her long flowing skirt, and she's a good old country girl originally from Kentucky. She and her husband have moved to Asheville from San Francisco. She finds out that I'm Southern too, and we bond, and she comes over and says, "Oh, hon, I'm just going to call you Belle. Can't you just come out to my spiritual retreat center, and you'll meet a lot of interesting people there?" But I think what really hooked me was her goddess chant in the workshop. It reminded me of those wonderful goddess circles I'd been to in the 90s when I was first coming out as a lesbian. She sang, "We all come from the goddess, and to her we shall return like a drop of rain flowing to the ocean. Isis, Astarte, Hecate, Demeter, Kali, Inanna." Well, so the next weekend, I go to another workshop at her retreat center, and I meet all kinds of interesting people who are also in transition and grieving, and I feel like I've found my spiritual tribe. Oh, yeah, and then Marie moves to Asheville, and she moves in with me, and I'm really happy. And we decide that fall to go on a spiritual trip to Egypt with Moondragon, her husband, and 40 healers. It's a great trip. We have private tours of the Sphinx and the Temple of Isis, and we meditate and do rituals. It was a really powerful trip. Well, we get back to Asheville, and a few weeks later, Moondragon calls me one day. Belle, hon, I got this idea. I'm going to do this workshop on healing women's sexuality. It's called Sacred Spot Work. And I want you to assist me in the workshop. And Belle, I'm not asking anybody else. Moondragon, just what is the workshop really about? Well, Belle, sacred spot, that's your G-spot. Now, I know all about my G-spot, and I like it very much, but I don't want to explore it with strangers in a workshop. Well, here's how it works, hon. We're going to divide up into groups of 3, and one lady, she puts her fingers in the other lady's vagina and brings her to climax, and the other lady is a sacred witness, and then we switch and everybody gets a turn. I'm thinking, holy shit. Is she really serious? But I just stall and say, well, let me think about it, Moondragon, and I'll call you back in a few days. And then I tell Marie immediately, and she's just as horrified as I am. Oh my God, what kind of spiritual cult is this? Elizabeth, you got to report her to the board. Now, just what kind of board that would be, I don't know. I don't know, maybe I could call the local redneck sheriff and he'd come out and there'd be some drama in the mountains there, but I don't do that. But I do a really hard thing, and I tell Moondragon that I can't assist her with the workshop and that I think it's really kind of unethical. It's not the right thing for me to do. Nothing against the polyamorous community, by the way. It's just not my cup of tea. And she's upset, and she says, well, Belle, I'm sorry you feel that way. I think you're just repressed and need to be opened up. So I leave the community, and it's really hard because a lot of my new friends, well, they've all signed up for this workshop, and there's a waiting list, by the way. But I knew it wasn't for me, and it wasn't too much longer, about a year later, that Marie and I moved back to the D.C. area. We'd had enough of the high woo-woo in the mountains. And we live in Tacoma Park now, so I'm still a little woo-woo, but grounded woo-woo. And now, as an interfaith minister and energy healer, I lead my own retreats and workshops. And, well, not on sacred spot work, sorry, ladies, but I do workshops on forgiveness and slowing down for soul care and spiritual practices. And, I was thinking about that year that I was with Moondragon, and, maybe I lost some of my judgment, but maybe not. Because now I'm really grateful that I had those experiences with Moondragon, because it's given me a great story to remember and share with y'all. Thank you.